Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Warships with Ungainly Titan. In this game, I think there's a number of firsts for me. It's certainly the most damage ribbons I've ever recorded. I don't know if it's the most damage I've ever done, but it's certainly the most ribbons that I've ever recorded. It is, even in a co-op battle, I think 96,000 is the highest that I remember getting before. It's certainly the battle with the most aircraft carriers that I've been in. It's a random battle, and it's domination mode, but it's the mode with the 4 cap circles where you start off with 1. Each team starts off with 1. So we have Charlie, the enemy have Bravo, and Alpha and Delta are clear. And the cap circles actually are very important in this game and in the evolution of this game. Other things to note, like I said, I hadn't really experienced the number of aircraft carriers, and it was kind of a new experience to me. Now, I thought I'd stick close to the battleship, that I would be near a battleship, if not too near a battleship. Now, I think in hindsight, I didn't stick close enough to the battleship, that I was a little too far, and that the anti-aircraft contribution that I was making, shall we say, to the defence of the battleship, or to our mutual defence, was insufficient, that I was just not at an optimum distance for the two of us to be really supporting each other well. I think it probably could have been doing it a lot closer. Now, our carriers are pretty effective at identifying the enemy forces, and they're obviously very, very strong around Bravo, but they're also heading into Delta in a fair amount of force. And there's a lot of aircraft coming just straight at us across the Central Islands. So we're under a good bit of initial air attack. And the thing is, there's a lot of air, as far as I can make out, there's a good bit of defensive air in the enemy area, but there's not a lot of defensive air where we are. And one of our aircraft carriers, most of them are sort of lingering around the spawn area, but one of our aircraft carriers is steaming east. It's full speed, and that's not necessarily a good idea. We have a cruiser that's in front of me as well, to the east of me. He's heading towards Delta, and I think he's overextended as well, and that aircraft carrier is overextended, and the battleship that's with him is heading northwest actually, so he's kind of staying out of the contention of the main areas of the battlefield, but he's completely abandoning the aircraft carrier to his fate, and at the moment so are we all. And I think it turns out that, well, I think he made foolish decisions, but he also didn't pay proper attention to what was going on the map. Now I'm heading also for a kind of a moment of indecision, or more than a moment of indecision. I spent quite a bit of this part of the game dithering about what exactly I'm going to do next. It was obvious that the enemy ships are cruising south in a kind of a fairly strong battle line, and there's a few slipping in around at other locations. We're attempting to cap Alpha at the moment, but there are enemy battleships in the centre, and there are more enemy battleships coming out from behind. Now, they're out of range of me at the moment, but the thing is, if they all come together, if they all come south, they are coming south in a group, I won't be meeting one of them at a time. I'll be meeting the whole lot together. So I think maybe get some shots off and then turn the ship around and head away. So I start doing stuff like that. I am still cruising east, but I think as soon as I start, well, I'm already detected, and I'm starting to turn my ship. Now, I'm also very inefficient here with when and if I do armor-piercing broadsides. That I did a lot more high-explosive broadsides than I ought to have done, and that I should have made more use of the armor-piercing broadsides more frequently, particularly when ships were presenting me with broadsides of this nature. It just appears to be that armor piercing is the better route. I certainly seem to be doing more damage since I've started using more armor piercing. I think there's a lot of shatters and stuff with the high explosive rounds. You do set fires, and they can be useful, but they don't do the damage in the way the armor piercing rounds do when you get the opportunity to use them. Now, at the moment, I am becoming also somewhat concerned about that aircraft carrier, that he seems to be heading into trouble and doesn't seem to be aware of it. Now, I wasn't sure that he wasn't aware of it, and I was kind of reluctant to abandon him to his fate at this point in time, but I think I should need to recognise the situations better. And I should probably have kept a closer eye on the battleship and stuck with my resolution to stick with the battleship rather than worry about the aircraft carrier. And I think in future I'll let the aircraft carrier drivers worry about their own fate, because it's a bit like artillery. I think you have a top-down map view with the aircraft carriers when you're managing your aircraft, and the problem with that is, of course, that you're not seeing anything going on in the locality of your ship, so you can lose situational awareness very easily. So you get this kind of same as the artillery players get, where they get this complete obliviousness to the circumstances of their own tank, while they're focusing on the other end of the map and they have no idea what's going on around them. The enemy at this point also have captured 2 of the cap circles. We've only captured 1. We've been driven away from Alpha, obviously without making a cap, either we've been sunk or driven away. We haven't lost a destroyer, so probably driven away is the thing that's happened. We have lost that cruiser that overextended himself at the very beginning, but we're okay on ships, but that carrier is in trouble. And this is why I started turning this way, whereas originally I was planning to turn around and go back up north. And I think if I had gone back up north at this point, I would have been better off, and I think the team would have been better off. We would have had a better game of it, so to speak. But around about this point in time, the battleship is turning back. He's decided there's no point in further continuing in this direction, and I'm beginning to realise that this carrier is oblivious to what's going on around him, and I can't, off the top of my head, think of any way of communicating with him now. I could have supposed to use the team chat. I should have probably used the team chat at this point in time. I'm not detected. I could have gotten away with it. Whether, like I said, the carrier is being steered by autopilot, or whether he's being steered by just picking a direction, setting an acceleration, and when the ship hits a target speed, off he goes. However, I'm now down here at the southern edge of the map, and I'm a bit away from the action. I was just looking there at the commands to see, because I know there are F keys that you can press, the various F keys to send chat messages to, a bit like the right bumper on the communication wheel in World of Tanks console, and you can send canned messages to somebody. I just wanted to send them a please return or retreat message to the carrier there, but I couldn't figure out how to do it at that point in time. It's at this point I make my second big mistake. I start cruising mostly west, and I think I should have been cruising mostly north. I should have been more aggressively heading back north, because that's where my teammates are, and I would have had the benefit of mutual support from the teammates, and also I could have cruised north until I started taking fire or contact from ships coming in to the north of me, to the northeast of me, like for instance, and then cruised west, or cruised northwesterly at that point from a more northerly position. There goes the battleship. Yes, a torpedo hit from a destroyer. It's a fair old range. I didn't think the torpedoes had that kind of range. But that's a kind of an important loss to us, because that was a big so it's a big anchor on this side of the map. And I compound the error now. Now I need to head away from a ship, either head away or towards ships that are shooting at me. But I'm a bit in the crossfire. I can't simultaneously head away from both, or if I do, I'm actually heading further west. Which is why I think if I'd gone more aggressively north earlier on, before they were shooting at me, I could be doing this from a more northerly position. And I might have been out of range of some of the ships further east of me, so that I might actually have been able to continue in a northwesterly course, rather than going off sort of southwesterly and extending the distance between myself and my allies. Now at this point of the game, things are actually looking pretty grim for us. The enemy have 2 cap circles captured, and they're gaining points from the 2 cap circles. They're ahead of us on points. We've sunk more ships, but they've sunk more battleships than destroyers. So we've lost most of our battleships, and what's left are cruisers and aircraft carriers. We've 1 destroyer left, and he has been playing fairly aggressively. So I don't know what state he's in. And I haven't actually contributed much to the battle at this point in time. A lot of it is I just haven't been in the right location as well. I've been too heavily outnumbered against the ships that I went up against in order to put up an effective fight. I was expecting ships a little bit more, I suppose, out of the battleship, but then he can't help it if he got torpedoed. Well, I suppose he could. He might have been going too far in straight lines and stuff like that, but I don't know, what exactly happened and why. He might have thought he was safe enough as well, that the range was pretty much at its limit. Tactically, the situation looks grim as well. With the exception of that destroyer that's now in Bravo, we are all in the southwestern quadrant of the map, pretty much. The only thing really strongly in our favour is that the enemy are all sort of opposite us. They're all in the bulk of the enemy's forces. There's probably carriers up around in the northern part of the map, but the enemy's forces are down here in the southeastern quadrant of the map rather than up in the north, so that actually has helped us a little bit. It means that Alpha is not in immediate danger of being capped by enemy forces. And on the other hand, Charlie, our one cap that we actually possess, is in danger of being capped by enemy forces. And I'm currently playing with these ships that are behind me now. I'm better off again breaking contact, letting the dust settle a bit and sailing north again, close the distance to myself and allies so that we're in a better position to mutually support ourselves, and then we can concentrate on the ships that are trying to capture Charlie. It has been my experience so far playing random battles in World of Warships that at these tiers, the tactical side of the game really doesn't enter into it that much. This is one of the more tactically sophisticated battles that I've seen, and it's a battle where the tactics actually mattered quite a lot. Most of the games I've been involved in, enemy fleets make contact and there's a furious exchange of gunfire or torpedoes or whatever, until one side beats the other, and then sometimes, if the game is nearly over, you'll see people thinking about tactical victories or various things like that, or capture point based victories. Now, I've seen people do that in the later game where they suddenly realise they're outnumbered with the enemy fleets on the other side of the map, and they can capture these two nearby capture points, and they'll probably generate enough positive capture so that by the time the enemy gets around to uncapping, say, their own cap point and capturing or recapturing these two that you're just about to flip, that at that point it's too late for them to do it, because you could just keep away from them, keep hiding, and just flip the other ones behind them. And essentially, as far as I can make out, the bulk of our fleet have been playing the mob combat game, where they've been basically engaged in mass combat against the enemy ships as best they can, without really much regard for cap circles and which cap circles to take. But that destroyer on our team has actually been paying attention to the long game, to the tactical game, and to flipping capture points, I think, right from the get-go. I wouldn't be surprised if he was the guy inside an alpha right at the very beginning. Now, at this point, I have become aware of the danger of enemy ships in our cap circles, or near our cap circles, and I've started to pay attention to the one that's nearest the cap circle. So that has been very useful, but I'm still not far north enough. So there's three enemy ships, more or less, on the same, what do they call it, easting, westing, the line that goes east-west that I'm on. In fact, some of them are further north than me, including this destroyer that's heading very determinedly towards our cap circle. Because if he flips this cap, we're pretty much doomed. It's not going to catch up. The numbers rank up very quickly, and they are, ahead of us by a substantial amount. Now, I've managed to clear out the destroyer as well, and that was a fairly valuable kill because he was fairly close to me. He was spotting me, and he was fast and manoeuvrable and could get into the cap circle pretty quickly. There's another battleship heading in towards the cap circle, and he is a problem because he's slightly further north than I am. He's actually quite close to the edge of the cap circle, and I'm going to have to get rid of him. But I also have the problem that I have two pursuing ships, and if I maneuver to start avoiding fire because he's shooting back at me, which he's already beginning to do, I think. I'm not sure where the last bunch of shots came from, but if they start coming towards me, I'm going to start manoeuvring, which will slow down my progress to the north and makes it much more likely the other two ships are going to catch up with me. And while I'm talking, that destroyer on our team has managed to flip Alpha, so we now have 3 of the 4 cap points. So while we're behind, we're going to start catching up. And as long as we don't lose ships, or as long as we can keep ships alive, we could be in a strong position to actually take this game. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm fast enough to get clear of these guys. They're two of them at least are hurt here, battleships, and I have a suspicion that they're probably faster than I am, but I'm not a particularly fast cruiser. Now, we're going to concentrate fire on this guy anyway, because he is close enough to the capture circle to do something about it. And he is... although he's not steaming in the direction of the capture circle, he's starting to steam towards me and away from the capture circle. So, however, at the moment, I've detected all three ships. Now, I think that could be that they're just inside my detection range, and there's not a lot I can do about it. And the bottom ship actually is probably closing the distance to me. That I think a few minutes ago he was further away, so I'm not sure even if I could get away, even if I wasn't firing back and stuff. So we're getting some more rounds out. The two guys behind me are not firing. We've gotten rid of him. And I thought at this point that if I stopped firing my guns, maybe I could become undetected. Now, I don't know how long you remain detected after you're spotted the last, but immediately that I did stop firing guns, I took fairly heavy damage from one of those battleships. Now, it didn't help. I actually turned into it, the broadside. Don't know why I did something as stupid as this, but I should have turned the other way. And I've taken more heavily damaged. I'm being shot at by both ships, and I'm actually on fire. And my repair party's on cooldown, so I can't stop the fire or anything like that, because and I'm not undetected, I'm not being shown as being undetected. But we've all 4 capture points captured, and I realised that at this point in time, and I thought that if I did keep firing, and I did keep, because I also know the clock was down to 2:48, 2:46, that if I kept firing at these guys and kept firing back at it and kept their attention for another 30 or 40 seconds, that we'd win the game as long as the last remaining ship stays alive, because there's no way they'd better get back to the cap circles in time to flip them over and change them to their side. I do know I was being advised in chat to stop firing and stay alive. However, that's it. It's game over for me. I have been destroyed. We have one remaining cruiser alive, but he never left the spawn circle. I don't think he moved from that position from the very beginning of the game. We have a destroyer still alive. He's got very little health left. But as far as I can tell, he's undetected right now, and all he's got to do is get out of the cap circle and just head away from the enemies so that they don't know where he is. They could start recapping a particular cap circle at any time, I suppose, but will they make it in the time remaining of the game? It's unlikely, it seems to me. So I'm pretty sure at this particular point in time that as long as that destroyer remains alive, that we can't lose, that it would be impossible, even if the two ships could get back into a cap circle each at this stage of the game, that they would be able to stay there long enough, that there's enough time remaining for them to flip both cap circles and get their own numbers going up, especially since we're actually already, not too far from the 900. That destroyer has certainly been through the wars. He's got very few hit points left, and he's not really in a position to take on anybody. I mean, you could. I don't know the range of his torpedoes, whether they exceed his view range or his hidden range. If they exceeded his hidden range, then he could possibly stealth snipe the battleships from long range with torpedoes. I mean, it's certainly a possibility, and you'd never know. They might run into it or get fooled by it. Very pink rock on that island there. Some fairly formidable looking cliffs as well. Wouldn't like have to be washed up there as a survivor and trying to survive. I wonder, does it have any sources of good fresh water? Got some very exposed and barren looking hillsides there as well along the edges of it. The destroyer is now effectively out of sight of the two battleships and probably out of any possibility of them spotting them. They have 4 capture locations. And we're racking up the points quite fast. We're already into the 90s and they're stalled where they are because they need to kill more of our ships in order to make further progress on their points. So in the final analysis, let's see what we've got. We had a victory. I was destroyed by an enemy ship. So we got 65,000 silver, 1,700 experience, some free experience. We came number 2 by experience. The Wakataki, the destroyer, came number 1 with 3 ships sunk, 4 enemy aircraft destroyed, and a result of 1,513. So GG Mr. Surfican, number 1. That was a pretty tough fight, looks like you had. And you definitely earned your keep. I did, I suppose, a respectable score. I got number 3. 46,000 damage in total, and 35,700 for the main battery, was it? So 10,704 from fire, setting things on fire. So I suppose I got reasonable damage from the fire side of things as well this time. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it interesting. If you did, please give it a like and a share. If you've not already done so, please subscribe. I will catch you all soon. Bye for now.